Alright, hello everybody. Another classic from the past. This time I thought we could make an entire series out of it. World Championship match between Jose Raul Capablanca and Emmanuel Lasker from 1921. And I thought we could look at all the games, not just the ones that end in results. It's only 14 games, so why not? First game played in Havana Cuba, Capa is white and goes surprisingly, or not so surprisingly, d4. And we go d5, well, in a little funky move order, but knight f3, e6, c4, knight f6, bishop g5, bishop e7. We are kind of arriving in the Queen's Gambit declined in eventually. Knight bd7, knight c3. Now we're definitely in the normal stuff here with the knight when the knight comes here. Castles. And then white plays a little waiting move with the rook c1. We're again in the typical waiting game moments of the game where white is waiting with this move, and I know it probably wasn't just wanna lose a tempo where black plays a6 b5 or straight up goes for the center here, and should be fine. I mean, this is also fine. White plays rook c1. Hopefully this is a useful move in the future. Semi-open file. Well, not yet, but might open up. Pop, pop, pop. Maybe someday there's something on the c7. Who knows? Well, black plays the start cover. b6. Bishop wants to go here and then pop here, and this is great again. And this is usually the moment, same as the a6 line usually, is that when black weakens this side with chop. And here the same thing applies, chop, chop, chop. Here the weakening is even more clear than in the a6 lines. Now if the bishop, which we opened up, the pawn is no longer here, goes this way, well, it's not so easy to manage even that one, but let's say it goes eventually there. There's gonna be holes here, is the point. Black, of course, could take with the knight in hopes that we don't block the bishop here, but, well, let's say it takes. Black should probably take with the knight, otherwise he's gonna end up in takes with the queen, then his bishop is gonna get definitely planted in there. Well, also he drops the c-pawn, so it's completely unmanageable. This would probably be fine too, but at least then the rook might have a say on the c-file eventually. And well, black has no central pawn, but bishop is probably happy about it. But of course that means the pawns can jimmy up the board too. Well, in a game we took with the pawn, there is some weaknesses around these parts of town, and white is trying to exploit them instantly. Here Lasker himself on the white side had played previously queen, and well, Capa also had been in these positions before. In this game we go bishop b5. Eyeing this square here maybe. Black says no, white says maybe, black says absolutely no. And now if we go there, bad things happen. b5 cuts the communications here, and the pawn or the bishop is a goner for sure. So after a6, either we admit defeat and go backwards. And well, that doesn't make sense since I don't think the inducing a6 is much of a weakness, so we probably have to try to justify our play. Chop, chop. Obviously, queen takes ends up in a pop, pop, losing a piece after the knight takes. So black is forced to take with the knight, and then, well, white lost a pretty good bishop, which is usually great in the Queen's Gambit. But he gets rid of these dark squared bishops, which is probably in their favor. And then We go queen b3, eyeing the pawn here. Capa on the black side faced in earlier game against Marshall. Marshall went castles. Then we get the well, c5 is usually the black's plan in these. Hits the center. The downside, of course, is that we end up in the hanging pawns, so-called structure, which of course is a bit of weakness, but it has also, like, it has a lot of legs. This can go forward. This can go forward. We have a more advanced central pawn than white, so we can use that as an support for an outpost at some point, and I mean maybe b file can be used. Well, unlikely e file, but has some freedom. He has some flex. For instance, the Marshall Cup game, you have see a very typical plan of pop d4. Basically a pawn sack, but we break the white's king side and get them a lot of play against the weak king here. This game eventually ended in a draw, but it's a possibility. This game, after queen e7, we got the queen b3 instead, eyeing here, and black just defended the pawn. And then we go castles, and then we see that both sides know what's up. They know this is gonna happen, very likely. So they're piling up on a very weird pile. Like this would of course be more normal, like you plan of rook lifts here. But that's not the plan here. Black is saying that, well, it could be a plan here, but this time this move indicates that he's preemptively supporting d5, so we kind of know that, oh, c5 is likely to happen here. And white knows the same thing. He's putting a rook, the file that is blocked by a rook pawn here. Looks stupid. Alignment with the queen, but already like putting pressure in for the knowing that c5 is likely to happen. Well, black first has to defend the bishop, because then we can take with the pawn here. There's no point of playing c5 and taking with the knight. I mean some point, but it doesn't really seem like a good isolated pawn. So we want to take with the pawn, not hang a bishop. Well, white is playing for them. Knight is maybe eyeing the d3. Black improves their knight, supports these, opens the communications here. And, well, maybe also goes for attack. Well, white plays rook c2. Maybe we'll double here, maybe we'll double here. Of course, the rooks are disconnected in a way that they are a little liability. Here, black could threaten the mate here. I think white just goes back here. There's no, very unlikely that Capa would have weakened the king side like this. I think we just go back and then, I mean, maybe kick the knight out here anyways. Instead of knight g4, we get c5, bang. And now we get the chop chop, and then we are already again in the hanging pawn structure. Well, white plays knight e2. Maybe also we got out of the way of pushes earlier. The knight went here. Not only eyeing this square, but maybe we sidestep the bishops. Eyeing there, especially with the queen here, it could have been nasty. Anyways, now we open things up here. I mean, maybe the knight is going here. But also can now go to g3. No, knight goes to e5. Outpost. White pins the c pawn. Well, also sidestep any action on this b file. Black defends the pawn. Now it's defended by 3. This is defended by 3. Not attacked many times at the moment. but at least they are unlikely to go forward at the moment. White goes knight g3, wants to get rid of this pretty advanced knight. Black takes, white takes Preluft. But double pawn, is that weak? Probably not that weak, but somehow always a little inflexible. Well, black sidestep any actions here and plays queen b6. Then we go rook cd2, lining up here. I don't know how we go for it. At the moment it's well defended, but maybe knight there. No, knight goes to f3 instead. Eyeing the, or keeping this away, and well, I guess it also maybe more things on the diagonal. If somehow this could become a problem someday. Unlikely. Well, black does open the diagonal anyhow. d4. Wait, we had a lot of defenders here. How can black go here? Well, white takes, and black says pop. I'll kill the one of the defenders here. Well, white took back with the queen. You could ask what happens if we try to sneak in betweener here. But black can probably take here. And then, well, this obviously won't end up well because this is an in-betweener check, and then we can retreat the bishop, and well, white has few pawns, but this should be a really annoying, probably completely losing. And if black-white takes back here, two things hanging, but black can probably just go here in a way that white can't now take back the bishop because of the fork here, and this all fails, so it's better to just take back here. Well, black pops with the rook, and I think a little instructive moment here. Instead of chopping here and fixing the isolation on the non-pawn restricted file, it's also in a passed pawn now. Whereas white plays the rook c2, this is defended. Black took, white took. Now the isoline is here. Oh, this is also one. That's the white's advantage here. Small weakness. But at least the pawn is now, in a way, let's say it pushes, it's already restricted. Or in the game, eventually white played b3 and it's already well covered. Well, black's not interested in passive defense there. He goes for active rook d8. Like if you pile up on here, you have to always be worried about some well-timed b4. Here it probably gets sidestepped, but let's say white plays here, and then you have to worry about these moments. Well, it's possible. This is active. White sidestepped attack. Black lines up here. Maybe wants to trade their rooks? Question mark. Or the queens. White says no. I mean, this would be risky and require a lot of calculations. Let's say throw in a random move there. Like, can this be held? Maybe. Seems a bit annoying though. Well, it probably gets there and there. It's probably in the equal territory still though. Anyways, white says no. Wants to keep the queens on. Black comes here. Always some funny business. So basically we're defending this by tactics here. Ping, pong, bang. Pick up the rook. No good. Well, white's not interested in falling into that. He says no advance for you. b3. Well, defends the pawn here too, which was looked at. Queen f5. Keeping the queen honest again. Hitting the rook. So no time to chop. White plays g4. He wants to get some shelter for the king from the checks. So the queen can maybe move. queen g5. I mean, there's this check, but it's not very far. White plays g3 anyway, says no checks for you. Black plays queen, rook d6, defends the pawn here. King g2, sorry, king g2, g6, queen c4, eyeing the pawn. And black says, I'm not gonna even defend it. You take it, I'll take it. And that's what happens. Pop, pop. And here we have black, white Capablanca has a nice little move f3, forcing the queen to rage, but at least gives black some weakness here, or maybe not even a weakness, but makes the inside majority a little less flexible. The queen has to go to somewhere where it gets traded off, like there's no retreats, no alternatives. And then, well, this would happen in a game. Black's majority here is a little unflexible, as white has the extra pawn on this side. So this should be, of course, still completely equal, like all rook endgames are. Disclaimer, not so true. What? Well, white comes here, takes some entry squares from the rook. Maybe the rook goes harassment route. Well, black plays rook d6. Here, of course, you could ask, like, why not improve the king? Here, the problem is that you can never ever, I think, cross the e file in this, because white plays here and trades the rooks, and the pawn endgame with the passed pawn on this side, outside passed pawn, are completely hopeless. So this route is completely out of the question. Maybe the king could go upwards, but it's not really flexible here, but possible. It's not so bad. Not that this is bad either. It's saying that basically you go do your stuff, I'll hit your pawns here. Well, the downside, of course, is that the king is free to get more active here. Black should definitely probably keep the rook here though, and do something with the king, for instance, king g7 there. Keep the king cut off. This is not horrible yet. White keeps on coming, but it goes to the wrong direction. And then this is already too far. Rook d6. And well, here Capa, I don't know, hesitates. First game of the World Championship match. He should go up. And king is really good at supporting the passed pawns. White has the extra pawn. He has a easy way of making a passer here. Here black has few options. He can go try to keep the cutoff on this file and go for the counter here, or for instance go this way. Let's say white defends the pawn. Black can basically win this side. But just to demonstrate how, well, first of all, black king here. It's far away from your own pawns, far away from trying to stop white pawns. And somehow here, even though these guys are the same starting position, it's even black to move, and they still lose the race. Let's say f5. This is not even possible yet. White has to even come back here with the king to get the pawns moving. And this is the right way to get them through. Let's say black pushes the pawn, white pushes the pawn. Here, let's say black could even go here, put the rook behind the passed pawn, and this looks really fast. White pushes a5. Here you can start to push the pawns, and white even has to like wait and push the wrong side pawn here. or instructional moment is that now the white king lacks shelter. And the problem here is that black can check basically forever. And white can hide all the way here, but here is where we need the pawn. Now he can harass this guy, and of course if you go forward we pick it up with check and take. And then you try to keep it to the king, you get checked around. So around here white has to push this pawn first. And then the rooks eventually fail because white can hide behind this pawn. Let's say, well, black pushes the pawns. Here then comes the problem is that here white can basically ignore this situation because the king is badly placed on the back rank. If you take, we promote with check, chop, chop. And we have another pawn here to put. Easy win. And of course, if you go here, here, there, white was already threatening. Like if you go here, we already threatened these takes things, and this guy is overloaded. So black should push this guy first. But it's not gonna work out again because this setup is frozen. You can't do this because of the same tactic. Bang, bang. If you take, you lose all. Well, I guess you could block here still, but white has an extra pawn. This is a goner. No good. But main point is that the king supports the passed pawns really well. The rook, of course, is not ideal behind these pawns, but it's good enough here, holding them back enough of time that they get through here. And this guy is complete statist here, not participating at all. King c5. Okay, the other line would have been to, let's say, king rook here, keeping the king cut off and eyeing here. White should just calmly play rook c3, keep these guys up. And then the problem is that, well, the king is still too slow. White can start to push their passed pawns. King tries to run. Very accurate move here is to now do the same as black is doing to us. Cut this king away from that defense. Black can defend or keep check. Here probably king c6 is the more accurate. This fails to here, here, here. No good. Accurate move here. Cutting the king off. Here, here. And then black hardly can make any progress. If he keeps checking, then we go here and then we drop the pawn, or if you don't, if you keep defending the pawn, white just starts to push their pawns here and wins that way. And these are not going anywhere. Anyways, in a game after this check, Capa, instead of very good chances of winning, king c5, went back. I don't know, nerves, lack of courage in the first game, runs away. And the rook just stands there. We could still maybe see if black goes for the same thing. But here we end up in this kind of a situation. Now we can't go for this without dropping this. White goes king d3, king g7, b4, and then rook harasses the f-pawn. White keeps that defended, harasses the b-pawn. Well, in the end, white wins the a-pawn, black wins the b-pawn, and here they actually agreed to a draw. White still has their extra pawn, a passed pawn on the queen side, but this rook is in bad place in front of the pawn, and this is getting behind it most likely. And well, of course you could mess this up, but the players agreed that it's unlikely and agreed a draw. Anyways, missed chance for white. A little shaky defense for Lasker, but first game ends in a draw.